lighting. Lighting is not that great right here, but I realized my computer was running out of juice. So there you go. So great to have you join us this morning. And today what we're talking about is letting the questions grow. And the reason why I was thinking about is we actually have 3 baptisms this weekend with 2 families and a lot of baptisms coming up. That's beautiful part of doing church is being part of these families is they're really trying to figure out a way to make a commitment that'll help their families move forward closer to God, closer to each other, life of service, all the beautiful things. And I was thinking about what is it that I want to share with these families. And the theme I think I'm going to do this weekend is the theme of letting the questions grow. And I want to talk about that, like how that can really matter in our lives spiritually. I think it starts off with this idea that spiritually there clearly are higher truths. The idea that the truth is what you make it or that truth is relative is just not a spiritual concept. We do all have our opinions, we have different takes on the truth, but there is definitely a truth out there. There is something that is greater than us, something that's more important than our particular opinions at the moment, and that's how society works. It's how society functions. Society does not function terribly well if everything is completely relative. And just imagine trying to raise your kids with no idea that there's any idea right and wrong. It's just all relative. That will not serve your kids terribly well to have that particular perspective. So number one is this idea. Yep, there is a truth. There is something that is greater than me, and we live more and more towards that truth. And that means that the questions we ask along this path of life, the questions shift pretty dramatically over the course of our life because we're growing closer and closer towards what is the ultimate truth, which is God and love and wisdom and connection, all those beautiful things. But we have to, as parents and caregivers, really make sure that we're growing the questions. Now, what would be an example? I think when we're younger in our lives, there's this beautiful thing of, well, what do you like? What do you want to do? What do you like? What do you like? What do you like? And I know with parenting, especially going through the phase with parenting teenagers, they reach this point where their opinion is fact. Like they've been asked that question, what do you like? And they really regard that in their own beautiful minds. And it's as it should be at that point in time. They are very inward focused and very self-focused. And it really is like my opinion is the truth. And I was thinking about this, with food a couple of days ago, like with food as an example with a young adult, like they will judge a food. They'll have an opinion about a type of food, but it's not just an opinion. Like, yeah, I don't prefer that or whatever. No, this is the good food and this is the bad food. And the good food is the food they like, and the bad food is the food they don't like. There's no room for grayness there. There's no room for someone else's opinion because this food is bad food. Period. End of story. And so much of life is that way when we're young. There's really good people and really bad people. Everything's broken into these binaries. These, as my friend Ned would say, these dualities are just everywhere. And we launch into life and there's all these dualities. We're constantly making them dualities. We're absolutely convinced of our opinion. And what that means is that leads us down a certain path. So if I really believe that my opinion is fact, what happens really quickly is those facts become my opinion. I'm using facts here in quotes. So what happens is that I go to this place because my opinion is this is the good way to go. This is the good. It's really just my opinion. And so what happens is that as I go down that path, what I do is I start to accumulate just the facts that support my opinion. And it makes my opinion look more and more true. Welcome to social media algorithms. And so those questions, what do I like? It's a good question, but if that's all we're consumed about, probably it's a good question to think about into our 20s with occasional breaks in there. But that question probably should pretty much be taking a back seat by the time we're in our 30s, 40s, and 50s. By the time we're in our 30s, 40s, and 50s, it should be much, much broader questions, not about just what do I like, but what is life asking of me here? How can I serve? How can I be more loving? And there's a whole myriad of questions there. And those questions, what they start to do is instead of being sort of self-centered and very narrow, what they do is they're expansive and they welcome in all kinds of people. it doesn't mean, friends, that we don't have our opinion. For example, you look at politics. We have very strong opinions politically right now. And it doesn't mean that you don't have an opinion and you don't lean a certain direction. Of course you do. But hopefully those questions evolve, and the questions evolve to where we're able to go like, yeah, this is my opinion. And I want to understand the whole thing. I want to understand the breadth of other people's thought and the breadth of other people's perspectives. It may not change mine, but I'm going to be a place where I can at least hear it, and hear it without regarding it as a threat or without being threatening. So that idea, friends, of the letting the questions grow, where the questions stop coming in like this, just what is my personal opinion, which we will confuse with fact. What is my personal opinion on this? And they'll start to grow, which is how can I serve here? These are close-ended questions. In other words, you can answer them with a list. These are open-ended questions that may not have a list kind of answer. These are the questions that more create a way of being out there into the world. I want to say that again. They create a way of being. They create a way of having a soft edge around our lives and around other people. So the takeaway, friends, like just let some questions grow in your life, and sure, have some perspectives on what do you really like, but really, and if there was one question that's been a lot on my mind, I used it in church last Sunday. Really ask yourself the question, like, what is life asking of me right now? What is life asking of you? Or another question you might want to play around with. What is the one good thing you can do today that you are uniquely gifted to do? God has given us all gifts in a very humble way. We're to exercise those gifts. What's the good thing that you can do today with the gifts that you've been given by God to employ into the world? So there's just a couple of examples, friends, and I hope that makes a lot of sense. And now what we're going to do is now we're going to take a breath. And we're going to come in for an easy landing. We're going to shift gears here, slow down a ton, and we're going to do a little prayer, a little meditation, a little blessing, and then we'll say hi to people who are joining us on Facebook. So with that, dear friends, let's get a little breath. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I. Be still and know that. Be still and know. Be still and. Be still. Be. Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you, bring you peace, and bring you home. Amen. All right, dear friends, let's do a little quick look here at our friends who are joining us today on Facebook. And I hope you all have a wonderful weekend ahead of you. Certainly do hope that. All right, let's see this bad boy loaded up. There we go. Gabriella, good morning. Thank you for this message. You're welcome. It's a fun message. Actually, I just find it really, that there's nothing like a good question, right? There's nothing like a good question to get us thinking. So thank you for sharing that. Martha, good morning to you, my dear friend. I hope you're doing well, as I know you're a big outdoorsy person. As spring is coming along, I'm sure you are enjoying that a ton. And let me flip on to here. All right. Number of notes here. Linda writes, have a great weekend. Hopefully dry. Yes, we are hoping that as well. Melissa, good morning to you, my friend. I hope you're doing quite well. Mandy, good morning from Michigan, and great to have you joining us from out in the Midwest. And Linda, good morning to you. Looking forward to our small group dinner, actually, this Sunday night. That'll be fun. So, friends, first off, God bless all of you. I'm wishing you nothing but the very best of weekends, and hopefully you have a great time outside, great time enjoying, hopefully some nice weather, and hopefully, just keep on letting the questions in you grow. Take care. God bless. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.